57. When I read that, in the middle of that paragraph, it says, "In the event the council does not adopt any part of a regional plan or whatever, then something goes back to this committee." So at the end of the day, the council, our council, can, having gone back and forth any number of times, conclude we've heard enough, we're going to proceed.
So the way that it works is that under the Resource Management Act, only a council can adopt a plan change for notification. That they cannot delegate that responsibility to a committee. So this committee can't do that. So the responsibility or the power that this committee has is to recommend to council. Now, if you happen to have all 9 councillors sitting around the table, and so they should be quite well, aware of the content. But the Treaty Settlement Group members were always anxious that there be some mechanism in place in case there was, the council decided to overturn what the committee had already agreed to. And so it's exactly the same as we have in place actually for the Regional Transport Committee, but I don't think we've ever used that. We may have used it once. So it's just a refer back mechanism. If the council decides, no, we can't accept this recommendation, go back and refer it back to the Regional Planning Committee and keep talking until you can get some kind of something else. Either you may have to go and consult with more people, you may have to do some more scientific investigation, or you may just need to look at the wording again and then come back to us.
I don't mean to sound like I'm putting the onus on the Maori participants. If you had a renegade councillor, who just dug in his or her heels, as a member of the Regional Planning Committee, and said, no way, no way, no way, what happens under the consensus requirement?
Well, that's why we've got the 80% in there to deal with that specific situation. So it's clear that it's not 100%. So someone, like 11 of the 12 jury members, were waiting on the 12th.
Yeah. Or they get executed, one or the other.
I just want to make sure that I understand this 80% thing too. So it's possible that if the Regional Planning Committee can't get the 80% support for something, the council are stymied.
No, it wouldn't. If they couldn't get the 80% support for a particular provision, it wouldn't even get to council. That's the issue. So it's got to be something that's agreed to by the committee. So they've got to really do all that thrashing out first of all before it goes to the regional council for adoption.
Yes, but that means the council are stymied.
Well, potentially in their work program, potentially yes. Yeah.
So,
or if there's a particular timing, which there normally is for a plan change, you normally have a target for when you're going to notify it. Yeah.
Okay, so when I can't support this either. This is potentially incredibly disruptive to this council's activities.
Yes and no. I think the point I'd make is you either support it or you don't. I mean, for us to go and change all this stuff here, or any of this here at the moment, it's not going to get it there. So we either support it or we don't.
I should really support it because 3.6 councillors, that means we'd actually win a few votes. But at the behest of democracy, there's no way I can support that. And I can't believe that you can't. That there are a bunch of really decent people sitting around the table yesterday that they wouldn't see this as being reasonable and sensible.
Last week. But part of it is it's an ongoing process of trust. We're still getting to know each other. I mean, it's such a new concept and nationally significant. It'll take some time to bed in.
But Mr. Chairman, there is a precedent, and if we just remind ourselves that the notion, in fact, came from Wellington, Greater Wellington, and that they have and established prior to us a joint planning committee which operates on a consensus basis, and it works. It simply means if you've got that requirement, obligates people to work hard to find solutions. So, and for us to go back on this one would be, or have enormous and not very good consequences.
We're starting to get into debate. Should we get to the unless there's any other particular questions? Can we get to the recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to move, but
Okay.
I'd like to add a third, that the Council continues to negotiate with the Office of Treaty Settlements in support for the remuneration of treaty settlement members we recognise as cost of the Crown for ratepaying.
So we have a seconder for that? Okay. You wish to speak?
Mr. Chairman, I am very, very pleased to see that this is finally getting going to legislation. This is a package that is part of our current terms. The terms can be, I've got my microphone on. The terms can be changed, but changed only by agreement of all of us. And whether that's by simple agreement of 50 here and 50% there is another matter. But it does take both parties to agree to the change. The terms of reference, and especially this area around consensus decision making, particularly came from our treaty partners. And as they pointed out, it was their way of reaching settlements, and it sits very comfortably with what has come out of the Land and Water Forum, which quite frankly originally started as a suggestion of an EPA process that's with 100% consensus and on all resource management matters. So the way of the future is far more on matters of resource management is moving towards this. There's clearly our treaty partners on the RPC, their preferred means, and it is a challenge, the quorum, that you have to place this as a top priority committee and get there, otherwise you let everybody down. And I think this was one of their thinking around that high quorum is to make everybody value what they're doing there. My concern with the funding is not with the treaty partners, and I want to make that absolutely plain. It is that this is an agreement of the Crown and they're imposing a direct cost without giving the ratepayer any chance to be able to have a say. I think we should at least continue to negotiate that point with the office. I suspect we'll be up against a brick wall, but we should not actually resolve from trying. So that's why I added that further provision.
Dealing with issues by consensus is very much embedded in the culture of Māori people. Those of you who have sat around the table and or gone onto a marae and dealt with it, that's the way they do it. And it usually takes a lot longer, but it works in the end. Patience, I think, is one of those things that you have to have. So from my perspective, I believe that you vote for this if you support the Regional Planning Committee. If you don't vote for it, I think it's not a vote of confidence or a vote of support at all for the Regional Planning Committee, because it's acceptance of where they're at, where their culture is at, and it's an acceptance of the way that they do things and merging it with the way that we do things. I think as far as the money is concerned and the amendment that Councillor Scott has put forward, I think the government very often with local government keeps on putting responsibilities our way that we have to pass on to the ratepayers, and I think if we can actually progress that and try to get something from the Crown, I think that would be a good way of dealing with it. So I support that aspect.
I have huge concerns about these terms of reference. When you go into partnership with somebody, generally there are equal parties, or in this instance the costs are shared. This is more like a shotgun marriage rather than something that I would consider palatable to the ratepayers. There are going to be significant settlements through the Waitangi Tribunal to these parties that we will be working alongside, and I don't think that the amendment is strong enough in capping the ratepayer costs in this instance. I think it should go further to be making sure that once those settlements go through, the costs fall where they lie with the parties, both parties. So in this regard, I can't be supporting this, particularly Section M. I find it quite hypocritical that it says that this needs to be fair to the ratepayers, but it seems to be a one-way track in my mind, and it's not in the ratepayers' interest. So I look forward to this party arrangement. I look forward to this group working well with the Regional Planning Committee and councillors. I think that I've only been to one meeting and there's quite a bedding down period to come. My initial observations were quite a degree of preciousness, and that will be resolved in time, but certainly we need to be taking some lines in the sand in this instance. So at this point I won't be supporting this based on motion, based on number M, letter M.
Other speakers, Councillor Bevan.
I have a lot of sympathy for the issues that have been raised by Councillor Scott around the cost of administering this committee. In pretty much every case, the whenua are as well resourced, if not better resourced, than this council is to do it. So and it's a meeting of equals. So I just have a real problem with this. So I'm opposed to it on that basis, but I'm also opposed to it on the basis of the 80% vote. I just can't see how that's going to work, and I can see the activities of this council being stymied in the future, and it's just not a good place to be.
Other speakers? Someone?
Mr. Chairman, I am rather surprised at the reaction to the terms of reference, considering they were circulated with all the committees at the time this council started. So these are not new. It's only the track change, the amendments that have been reached to that. So certainly the cost one is new. The rest of it, the quorum, the voting, that was all circulated last year with the terms of reference. This has been a decision negotiated between the parties, and it's there, and it's a challenge, and quite frankly it's a good challenge. It sharpens everybody in finding a way of going forward. The matter of costs, I'm certainly not prepared to see this stymied now over that matter. I do query how much the cost would be. I think perhaps it's been underestimated, but I'd like to see the actual figures on that. But I do believe that that's a matter for us to be negotiating now with the Crown rather than with the treaty settlement parties. And I think that's the proper channel that we should be furthering that consideration through. So we have worked now for well over a year. We've worked for a number of years, but we've had the committee up and running now for well over a year. And yes, it is making progress and it is finding its way, and I'm sure that there will be more vigorous discussions going out of it as they go into the job. And we just welcome that and find a way of working together. It's a very good model based on certainly the Land and Water Forum's attitude. We've got how Tanker's working and how we're resolving issues through that. We're trying to work to consensus in other areas, and that was the wish of that committee. So I actually abide by the wishes of that committee and recommending that we further this and see that legislation go through Parliament.
Mr. Chair, I have to say this. So much for the word consensus. We can't even get the word neutral in the amalgamation debate.
Order, please. That was the last comment. Put the motion in. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Against? Casting vote for. Thank you. Right, 12:25. I'm not sure whether we'll get through this next piece in 5 minutes. What else have we got here?